thanks to the audience. I know it's post-lunch, always difficult, but trust me, this elite panel here will make it worth your while. And my thanks to the panelists also for taking the time out of their busy schedule and being with us here on a Sunday. So, quick introduction, myself Shivi, Vice President, Country Manager for Mimecast. We are in cybersecurity business. Specifically, our target is to protect human beings from any kind of phishing, social engineering, or malware attacks. So with that, let me come to the agenda for this particular panel discussion. So we find ourselves at a stage where there are quite a few things converging and very rapidly. For example, on one side, we have this AI onslaught. And every board member, every CEO, CXO of the company, they are asking all of us more and more to leverage AI to bring in efficiencies. Correspondingly, the employees are a little worried that is AI really going to impact their jobs? And the trust, say 10 years back, you build a trust with the employee once, it lasts forever. But in today's date, that trust has to be rebuilt over and over again. And at the same time, we are talking about Gen Z employees who don't just look at the job as their, say, way to earn money. They actually want to find meaning in their work, meaning in their life at their workplace. So the question is that how do we bring all of these together in this era where we have so many conflicting priorities? And with that, my first question is to Malahar. So Malahar, in today where the tech vision of almost every company includes leveraging AI, how do you ensure that teams make use of the same in a responsible manner for innovation?
Hello, okay, this is working. As you said, I think AI is a constant conversation, especially in every executive committee of every large corporate, and sometimes even in the boardrooms, right? If you ask me, I would broadly classify into 3 different categories of AI. The first one is your engineering side of it to improve your efficiency, productivity, process, quality of what you're delivering, whether it is assisted, such as Cursor or Windsurf or Copilot, or autonomous, that's what they are calling now, but Devin, which is evolution into that engineering process itself. There's a large push to actually get this rolled out across the enterprise, and also comes with a little bit of change management on how developers think to make sure that adoption happens. That, I feel, is easier part. The second part of the AI is enterprise AI. I feel agentic is part of it, but I would call it enterprise AI because it comes down to how you're going to bring entire enterprise knowledge base into a single location to build enterprise search, build intelligence on top of it so that you can find, because the first part of the AI is to find before you act. And the act is part of the agentic AI, but again for that, it's a long road, long journey for the enterprise search. The reason why I say that is large corporates has heterogeneous systems, not necessarily everything is API enabled, which means that you got to build APIs across the enterprise so that your agents are not just finishing the task, but actually running the workflows seamlessly. That's when the real enterprise AI is going to come into play. These 2, I would still say, are productivity improvement, operational efficiency, cost reduction measures. The third piece, which is again is crucial, but there are still, there are good investments going into, is your commercial part of the AI, which is how are you going to improve your revenue? How are you going to build those customer experiences? How are you going to upsell using AI, integrate AI into the commercial side of it, which is a revenue driver. So that's how I classify in 3 broad ways. And there is a gold rush to push all of them simultaneously and bring it to adoption. So talking about responsible AI, a data breach is much costlier than a productivity gain or improvement, right? So that's why it's important that all of these are in partnership with the data privacy, legal, cybersecurity is crucial to ask and answer the questions of what is this data, who is getting access to it, where it's getting stored primarily, and for what it's being used. And is it all sitting together without any access controls? Are we ring fencing it or not? Are going to be the crucial conversation to build responsible AI. The one more aspect I would add to the responsibility part of it is also to continue to keep human in the loop till we build accuracy, quality, and build trust is going to be the key. To conclude, while there is a large rush, it's important that we look at all aspects of safety and security, responsibility, while we continue to be tech forward, but be safe at the same time.
Excellent, thank you. So the most important point that I gathered was in data privacy, having appropriate governance, having the proper checks and controls, etc., to ensure the responsible use. Which brings me to my next question, and this is to Kiran, that what are the most effective ways for leaders to communicate and drive a clear technology vision during the periods of digital acceleration and disruption?
Thanks, Shivi. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kiran. I come from Omnicom, which is the largest media, advertising, and sales conglomerate in the world. We set up our GCC in India in 2012 with the mission to drive centralization of various data-related solutions. Back then, we helped transform the way agencies were looking at data through some of our platforms. And I pretty much look at the current stage with AI as a similar problem, because while you spoke about responsible use of AI, I think when I talk about us as leaders driving that digital acceleration or change, we also have to have the authenticity. We have to be very authentic to really understand the challenges that our clients are facing and our people are facing as well. From a environment standpoint, from a client standpoint, there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of complexity around this topic. So we'll have to do our best to simplify it and contextualize it, right? End of the day, there's a lot of possibilities, but we have to make sure that we are able to articulate in the way that best applies to the business, given that we work for so many of brands, including some of the ones in the room like Kimberly-Clark or Warner Brothers and more. Now, for our talent, again, the noise is, the problem is the same. And it creates a sense of fear that we will definitely be left behind, and they start experimenting, which is not necessarily a bad idea. You just can't do it when the stakes are high and you're working for a brand and taking their message outside. So it also requires a bit of understanding of and elevating their understanding of their own processes, right? I mean, end of the day, AI learns from you, not just your data, but also the way you've been working in your respective functions. So it's important for them to realize how to fix the basics or have the basics and foundations set right before you introduce anything new on top of it. See, end of the day, there is a saying, right? I mean, you can lead the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink it. But our jobs as leaders is to really help them understand in what form they can consume it, and that's going to happen only when you as leaders, whether you're representing, whether it's your organization or your own people, you have to be authentic to let them know that it is cluttered, but we'll help you go through this journey and handhold you through that.
Great, thank you. So authenticity, simplicity, and contextualization is what I gather, and that, I mean, just an example from my own organization, my own CEO, he didn't need to, but he created 3 agents himself before he said in a common meeting that he expects everyone to follow and make use of AI. So I think that's where you are coming from. So Niladri, while we talk about communication, about having responsible AI, there is a constant need of reskilling our current workforce. We are having, say, 3 different generations of workforce, the Gen X, the millennials, and the Gen Z. So what would you say as the best strategy to keep this workforce continuously in a mode where they keep learning, keep upgrading themselves, given that their preferences, their priorities, their work styles, thought processes are very different?
Okay, you said 3 generations, Gen Z, baby boomers, and millennials. Yes. So I'm feeling a bit like how Shameel felt when he was called the moderator, because I represent a generation called Generation X. And if anybody is born 1965 to 80, can you please raise your hand so I don't feel alone in the room? So we call the sandwich generation. We are parenting our parents and parenting our children. So just want to mention that generation also is there. And incidentally, I'm advising a company which I think is going to be a blockbuster, where the CEO is Gen X, the team is Gen Z and Gen Alpha, and the business is coming from not baby boomers, but the silent generation. They are the subject matter experts. So the world is very strange, right? So So on skilling, the way I'd like to break this a bit is, the World Economic Forum has said that the number one skill that will be required in the next few years is going to be curiosity. Curiosity and cognitive ability. And the way I would liken it is that it's, go daddy meets go baby. And, all of us as we were babies, I think we acted before we thought. We crawled before we did anything else. And the way I look at this whole thing about this fusion of the entire generations is to be able to figure out a way to drive curiosity to get better context. Because I think most organizations globally, whether you're growing inorganically or organically, have got deep context embedded within parts of the organization. Each of us who are slightly more older have learned our trade by working side by side with people who knew their wares. And yes, post-COVID, the world is a bit different, but that doesn't take away context. So from a curiosity point of view, I think we are getting to the point where beyond the world of Claude and Gemini and Copilot, technology is extending the human mind. One thing I've been personally blown away with, I don't know if some of you have seen this thing called Alter Ego by Arnav Kapoor from MIT, and he's created this device that does sensing of your speech into actionable text. It's a breakthrough in terms of what can be achievable. And I think that curiosity is about ensuring that you are able to take all generations in to be able to figure out what can be possible. Which brings me to the second part, and I keep talking about this in our company. We represent an organization that is a top decile convergence player on the world of technology visibility and IT value management. Every technology supplier on the planet and buyer love us, because if you want to know what is happening in your real estate, which converges AI, cloud, on-prem, and SaaS, and you want to go to the deepest workload possible and trace it back to value, Flexera is their friend. We've got 100,000 customers, a very responsible position to speak from. And the way I like to talk about it is, you got to think 360 and act 720. So 360 is talk about the customer, the shareholder, and the employee in the triple context. And 720 is do it 2 steps around with the customer's customer, because you need to also think about what can go wrong. And what can go wrong, turning to what Malahar and Kiran talked about, I think we don't have to look much far. We're not very far away from Amazon and Azure having a DNS issue back to back. And this is after all the chaos testing that has happened in the world. And DNS sits outside the application logic, was nothing done by AI. And I believe, a bit of going back to the basics is kind of very key. The second bit is, the world had supposed to go into cloud for OpEx, but Meta has just announced its results, and they are spending heavily on CapEx and OpEx. Infrastructure spending is going through the roof. And my belief is that until and unless you've got a triple wheel in terms of governance, security, sustainability, and unit economics, we will not know what we need to fix in the first place. So from a skills point of view, putting that into the flywheel is kind of very key. And understanding the fact that what can go wrong, if it's not explainable, can have defensible, non-defensible audit postures that could be far worse than 10 good things at work. So I'll take a pause there in terms of what I think constitutes courage, communication, and convergence.
So in other words, governance, having a strong governance in place, ensuring that every single employee is familiar with the basics, that cannot be skipped, and then generating that curiosity, that's the key to go forward. Thank you. So, which actually brings me to the next question, and this one is to Muhi-Uddin. So, in today's world, see, we can use AI tools internally to see information much faster, which was otherwise hidden. So, in today's world where there is much more faster flow of information, possibility that information may be seen maybe by not the intended audience, etc. How do you manage the balance between, say, some of the, say, operational or strategic confidentiality versus the openness of communication to the employees?
Well, thank you for the question. I think it's very relevant. But before that, I represent Allianz Partners, Global Business Solutions, fairly new organization in the GCC space in India. Been about 3 to 4 years. We're about 1,000 people based out of Gurgaon. And what you're saying is actually a very, very relevant topic. And as you were asking this question, I was just thinking, is this the first time in history that we are encountered with such a challenge? There have been path-breaking innovations. There have been these situations, since time immemorial. So why are we talking about this today? And the answer really lies in the fact that there is an information overload. There is all channels are going ahead and exploding with information. You talk about AI, then obviously, there is a little 3-year-old and a 60-year-old all talking the same language. And thereby, I firmly believe there is a requirement of a very controlled environment where we say, all right, as organizations, we have to, as leaders, we have to take a decision on how do we cascade, what do we cascade, and at what time do we cascade information. Really, what the step one is, to identify, to scope your organization. So AI could be the world, but like we spoke about Meta, and then there could be Alphabet, there could be others, but how is AI impacting your own organization? So that's the first thing, when we go ahead and talk to our employees about. So I think that's the first part. That cuts a lot of noise already. The second part is that we should go ahead and talk about why rather than what. Why the organization is going ahead and taking a step towards technology advancement. I think that's very, very important. Third, we have to ensure that wherever possible, we engage our people. Because engagement would go ahead and remove a lot of anxiety, a lot of noise. And four, we ensure that we keep this as a sequence of communication. So it's not that, I come up in a town hall today and we just go ahead and cascade information and that's forgotten. So we create a complete sequence and we say, all right, these are certain things that we can share, and then we go ahead and share them with the sequence. So I think, there has to be a complete framework, has to be different for each organization. But the key to this is not all the information is a real-time information that can be shared, because there are variables impacting your decision in the future. We're just talking on lunch that, how suddenly in 6 months your strategy changes. So you have to be very careful on how you communicate and what you communicate.
Great. The word I latched onto was engaging the team in the decision-making early, more of democratization of the decision-making, and I think therein lies the key. Thank you. So, Shameel, last but probably the most difficult part. So, let's say something has gone wrong, and now AI, or whatever benefits we are getting, we have some tough news to convey, or maybe not. Maybe it's just that people are still worried even if there is no impact. So, in this kind of world, how do you manage to give employees that psychological safety, that safe space that, yes, I am okay, company will take care of me? How do we do that?
Well, that's a very important question. I think a lot really depends on the culture of the entire organization and what kind of confidence have you built in within the workforce in terms of having their queries and questions resolved, and how often can they come up and speak to the senior leaders and get clarity. Of course, you spoke about an overflow of information. I feel that sometimes there's a lack of information in the organization because many senior leaders like to keep the information with themselves. They don't feel that it is ready to be communicated within the wider workforce, or sometimes they just don't know how to do it. So many a times, grapevine is what really kind of takes the entire route. Now, I work with Marriott. Marriott has in this values serve our world. So we all have. I've spent about 10 months here, but service is something that has just started coming very naturally to me. I don't know how many of you were there yesterday evening when Rahul Bose was here on the stage, and he was trying to open his bottle of water. The bottle was free. The cap was free. For a moment sitting over there, I just wanted to get up, get a bottle and give it to him, but I saw somebody on the side was already doing that job. So I think it's that mentality thing which has really come in. So from a Marriott angle, we have something called people first. People come first for us in whatever that we do. Now, when you have an organization culture like that, you automatically ensure that there are enough psychological safety measures built into an organization where people can ask questions without worrying about what's going to happen to me. And that's the culture in Marriott. I can ask the CEO anything that I want to. Nobody feels offended, no matter how silly or how simple how silly the question may be. Now, once you build that kind of a system in your organization, I think it's very easy to go ahead and break sad news or bad news, because you have a complete reasoning as to why, what is happening. And also what's important is, what are you doing to fix it? Because people keep on talking about AI losing jobs. Of course, my associates think about the same when they listen to social media. But I keep on telling them all the time, none of you are going to lose a job. AI from a Marriott world is going to just make your life easier, is going to make things faster, is going to improve revenues for our customers, will make bookings easy for our customers, and improve revenue for Marriott. So I think it all really depends upon the company culture. If you have built a very strong culture, I don't think there's anything to be afraid of when it comes to giving of bad news.
So people first culture and openness of asking anything and everything to any of your leaders. That's the key. Great, thank you. So with respect to limited time, we will now have one single question which I would request each one of you to participate on. It's, so while we are talking about the basic principles, nothing is complete without an actual example. So in the next question, I would request each one of you to bring out one simple example from your organization where you implemented any of these, say, tech or people-related or the cultural-related interventions successfully, and what was the impact? And let's restrict it to, let's say, 1 minute each, starting with Shameel.
Okay, so let me go back in time, right? I took on this company which had a very fragmented reporting structure, had employee satisfaction scores in the low 50s, attrition at 28%, and a senior leadership team which refused to walk out of their cabins. And it took me about a couple of years to put everything into shape. Of course, we had to fire a few people. There were some tough conversations with a few. But I think what really changed the game was that I did close to about 40 to 50 different focus group sessions. And whatever came out from those focus groups in terms of actions is something that we documented and shared with the entire workforce. And I put myself and my leadership accountable to fix each of those issues. There were 140 actions, if I remember very clearly now. And we took 6 months to fix those 140. And every time that we used to fix something, we used to ensure that an email communication went out to the wider workforce saying, this was the action which is on the shared drive, you have access to it. This is what we've done to fix it. This is the mini survey which we would send after a week. Do you see the action happening? Do you see that we managed to fix it? So we kind of created that kind of a culture where anything that didn't go right, they felt free talking about it. Nobody was reprimanded. There was a manager at one point of time during one of our Great Places to Work surveys who tried to doctor the team. That manager got fired within 24 hours. So we took some very, very tough calls saying, if this organization has to change, you have to set in the right culture. Fast forward 5 years, we were probably Great Places to Work, Trust Index 90, 91, doing pretty well, ranked 22. And then we came up with this challenge where my senior leadership in the UK told us that there will be 0 increments this year. This is 2017 when the market was still pretty okay. So going to the workforce, about 1,300 of them, and saying, guys, 0 increments, and these are the reasons why. And the obviously question was, the India Center is doing so well because they had full access to the P&L. They could make out our $45 million in revenue and what profit we were doing. But they understood the entire bigger picture. So that 1 year, we went off pretty smooth. We barely had an attrition of about 8% annualized in the entire year. The challenge came the next year when the management said, again, second year, no increments. And now the challenge comes as saying, now second year, no increments, what do you do about it? So 1 year you've managed because everything is on a high. But I guess when you build that kind of a culture, when you're listening to your people, when you have great trust index scores, when your people know that you care for them and truly care for them, it's not the values on the wall, it's what you believe on a day-to-day basis. I've always seen the workforce always putting their entire backing to you, and you can recover any situation. Second year also, our attrition rate went to 9%. I didn't lose too many people, but that only happened because of all those mini steps which were really put into place. So yeah, that's what was my real life example.
Great example. Niladri?
Yeah, I can see we lost the timer. So we worked extremely hard to layer in the voice of the customer globally, because with 100,000 customers, our roadmap is always full. So which means you're always chasing and chasing. So we've created good listening vectors. One thing which happened is what we heard is our customers said, what you're doing is great, but we, in the voice of Convergence, the chief technology officer, chief information officer, chief procurement officer, chief legal officer, business officer are having trouble because the contracts you do with your vendors on software, each have got discounts, commitments, and all laid out. Then you've got the contracts. Then you have entitlements. Who's entitled to use what? And then there are information about what software is out there from a security vulnerability point of view, what is out there in terms of the next CrowdStrike to happen. And speaking of Shameel's visibility, most companies are not able to get an integrated view about what are they using at what point in time, what shadow wastage is happening, who's running what AI service or whatever. So we created a flywheel to get that voice of the customer in and created a bit of an AI-based entitlement contract ingest which can go through tons of legalese of documents, look at what your entitlements are, if you're hiring or firing, who's actually using what shadow wastage is. And the product capability we have created is now live not with one, not two, but with 50 customers integrated into our platform, and it's given them 50% efficiencies. The biggest thing that has come out of it is not just this, but we have now created a new product capability on application sprawl management, which is essentially, if you think about it, and I could be as a company using different diagramming charts, like a Lucid chart or a Visio or something else, or even different versions of software. Now companies can actually see what versions am I using in my entire organization globally. Am I getting my right return on my spend? And am I actually running the risk of vulnerability, exposure, or defensibility on the audit position that I can consolidate? This would not have been possible before. So from nowhere, we've created a multi-billion dollar, nobody's been asking, it's been done from India. But the fact of the matter is we've created a giant customer flywheel, which is creating more opportunities as we speak.
Excellent examples. So two very different examples, one from internal employees' perspective and one from customers' perspective. Great. Muhi-Uddin?
Sure. I think in the true spirit of tech talent and trust is the bedrock. And that's what I spoke when I talked about engaging our workforce. So back in the day, we did something very basic, which is, when we knew we will automate some processes, we will go the AI way, we ensured that, we map our talent landscape into people who can be skilled and people, who we feel that, can get upskilled. So we did that bit and started engaging them, slowly and steadily in all these changes. And I think that has paid really good benefits. So something very basic and something very, very logical. At the same time, it increases trust. And as we know that, the moment we have trust, it will give us more engagement, more credibility, and thereby, more productivity. So it's a simple chain, and it's working well for us as of now.
Great, thank you. Kiran?
Quite a few examples, but specifically, if I talk about the acceleration and adoption of some new tech and tools, I was talking about earlier when we helped the agency and the marketing ecosystem really become data-driven. We adopted a simple funda that, we are outside of the market, but we're sufficiently inside. We understand the challenges the account teams and the client teams that are working are facing. We understood how do we, build smaller solutions that could get quick results and help them look better in front of their clients. So end of the day, you're trying to help the person take better products to the end client. And some of those initiatives in the early days, I'm talking almost 13, 14 years ago, helped us consolidate learnings across many accounts because, there's also a sense of FOMO. Like there are account teams competing and they want to show how they're doing well. And that, to a large extent, some of those learnings came into designing a very important product called Omni Plus that's currently driving a lot of our wins in the market. And I would say, as that became table stakes, right? Like data cannot be ignored and it's something that is expected as part of everything that you do. AI is also going to get there at some point. And that's what we are trying to do here as well. Like we are trying to embed and enable marketing through AI. And we are also now not completely distancing ourselves from early success or the past success. We are trying to layer it on top of our existing marketing platform, Omni Plus, and enhance its ability. And end of the day, you can have the great product, right? How do you drive adoption? How do you make it stick to the audience that's supposed to use it is where I think the biggest opportunity for all of us as GCC leaders exists.
Great, thank you. So our organizers are indicating we are up our time, but not before we hear from Malahar.
I'll try to be quick. I think I'm going to cut short my answer. I think I would start with the culture. Culture of knowing business and innovation mindset is key to actually drive value. And then bring the talent together. In my opinion, it's going to be product mindset, product people, tech, both internal, while we invest to develop internal talent, it's important that we get the talent from external who had done it multiple times, had seen fail, so that they can bring that experience. And the tech, I'm sure, as an India country, we can always learn tech, build tech. I don't think that's been a challenge. Just an example, 7-Eleven, we are large corporate, we have GBS function and as well as tech function at GCC. As an experiment, I have got the sponsorship with the AI, in alignment with the AI leader globally, to set up a pod between these two, actually identify the problem statements within GBS, define the solutions, go execute, deliver outcomes to continue to build the trust with the stakeholders. And now that's been taken as a model to actually create embedded pods into the businesses, like analytics, and drive AI adoption across the enterprise individually. So that's an example I could give.
Great, thank you. So with that, that brings us to the end of this panel discussion with appropriate governance, having, say, data privacy and similar other legal controls in place, managing information overload, building a culture of trust, openness, and inclusivity. Those are the key emerging themes. With that, I'm not sure if we have time for questions. No? All right. So feel free to contact any of us at any point of time. Thank you. Thank you all.